Today is the 4th of November, 2021. I felt compelled to make this because I think it's important for some people to, I think it's, anybody that sees this is important to know because it applies to you. All right, I'm going to have a couple facets of this. I'll try to make it as quick as possible. Now, we all know what this represents. I'm not going to say certain words because I don't want the video to get thrown out by YouTube because their little computers pick up on various words. But it is regards to your health and the decisions you make with your health. I currently, let me gather my thoughts real quick. Do research in regards to your health. Ask questions. Don't believe everything they say. Don't believe all the commercials. You know, I watch a lot of YouTube and I'll throw a commercial on there and I'll have some guy's name on there. Dr. So-and-so. How do you know that guy's a doctor? How do you know he's not an actor? Okay? Make decisions about what you choose to do with your health because you don't know what the long-term consequences are. And I'm going to use myself as an example. And you can apply it to getting this, you know. I want you to look at my eye. You see my eye? You see how it looks? What you're seeing is a silicon-based oil that has filled my eyeball, that is leaked past my eyeball, the inside, and is leaking into my retina and is obstructing my pupil. Now, why do I say that? Well, I had a retina detachment last year, 3 of them in a row. They didn't take with the traditional way of doing it. They put in a gas bubble, and the gas bubble dissolves, your eye fills up with its fluid again, and you're good to go. Well, for some crazy reason, my eye did not seem to do that. So the second time, they put a buckle in my eye, which is like a rubber band to squeeze your eye, and that failed. And then the third option was to put the silicon-based oil in the back of my eye for a year. The year was up September 4th or 14th, one or the other. And what's happening, and this is leaking forward. Now, when you go to a doctor, ask questions. So and last time I was at the doctor was just this past Monday, and today is Thursday. Prior to that was a month before. And I see my eye doctor, and he says, we got to get that out before November. Well, it's November the 4th now, right? Something happens to my doctor where he can't do surgery for whatever reason, I do not know. So I'm getting shuffled down the line here, right? Nobody told me that this stuff could leak into my eye, leak forward. Nobody told me that. Nobody told me that the oil will break down in my eye. Okay, I know it's supposed to be in there for about a year, but now they're kind of in a hurry to get it out. And yet, if I'm not on top of these people at the doctor's office, you fall through the cracks. So here's a couple other interesting things I didn't realize and he did tell me this, that when they do this laser surgery to reattach your retina, the laser, every time they do this, it fosters the growth of a cataract. So this eye has to have a cataract removed as well. Now, my eye doctor doesn't like to remove the cataract and do the eyeball at the same time, replace the fluid in the eye at the same time. So I had to go back and forth why these guys made a decision. And then when I can't get a hold of these guys for a month, and I finally get a hold of these guys, and they say, well, it's up to you what you want to do first. And I'm like, wait. You told me I got to get this fluid out by November because he doesn't want to leave it in there long. And the cataract guy wants to leave the fluid in there because it's easier for him to remove the cataract and put a lens in. And then it's the cataract guy that tells me, so I asked the cataract doctor, I say, hey, so and then when you put a new lens in there, I'm going to have perfect vision, right? And he says, we're hoping you get 50 to 70%. I said, excuse me? Are you telling me you're expecting me to get 50 to 70% of the vision I had before back in that eye? He says, yeah. I said, why? Well, you've had 3 retina surgeries, and, it damages the retina, so we don't think you're going to have full restoration of your eye. The cataract doctor told me this, not the retina doctor. So my retina doctor something happened where he can't operate, so he refers me to a colleague of his, and I'm talking to the colleague this past Monday, and he's telling me what they have to do to this eye is make a couple incisions, not one, but a couple, and drain the eyeball and flush the eyeball and drain the eyeball and flush the eyeball a couple times. And he won't get all the oil. He already told me. So because some of the oil sticks to the back of the ear tissue in your eye, and I'm going to have floating globules that I get to see every day. Questions I never asked when I first experienced it. Things the doctor didn't explain when I first started going through this. Now, I thought I asked everything I needed to ask, but obviously I didn't. And it took 3 doctors to get all the questions answered over a year later. Now, it kind of ticks me off because there are things you don't expect. And part of it is my fault because this was probably the most painful, debilitating thing I've ever had happen in my life, having this happen. I lose 6 weeks of income and all kinds of things. You got to sleep on your face. I can't even go. And the thought of them having to cut my eyeball, drain that fluid, flush it, drain it, flush it several times is not something I'm looking forward to. So I should have went online and looked at it. But the problem is I can't watch eye surgery online. I can watch anything online. I can watch anything in regards to operations and all this stuff. But because of what I experienced with this eye, I didn't do as much investigation as I should have because I did not want to look at it and have it bother me. Because I know how painful and everything it was dealing with it when it first happened 3 times in a row. How awful it was. The thought of watching it and the thought of having to go through this again. And I'm not looking at just one more surgery after they do this. Then I got to have a cataract surgery. It's killing me. And there's a part of me that should have said, just let yourself go. Because a part of me said, just go blind in that eye and be done with it. You don't want it. What's the point? But a friend of mine talked me out of it. She told me, what happens if something goes wrong with your good eye? And she's right. What if something... But the point is, and the thing is, I still have a 5% chance that the retina will detach again. If that happens again, I'm just saying, done with it, because it gets to the point where it gets damaged to the point where you get no eyesight out of it, so what's the point? I already can't see well out of this. I really legally can't see out of this eye as it is. I mean, I have light perception and stuff, but if I was going to read and I'm looking, I mean, I could kind of, if I close my good eye here and I can see my hands and I can see my fingers, but I can't see where the phone is. And that's because that oil has leaked across my pupil. And I actually have better sight. The optics get all screwed up when you get this silicon-based oil in your eye. And why do I tell people this? You have an untested, long-term tested thing like this that they want to into you. And we have long-term studies for these things to see what long-term effects do. Now, I've mentioned before, I had a friend of mine that died from blood clots after she got this. Healthy person. In the meantime, I've been looking at people who have had adverse side effects and people who have died from it. There's all kinds of things. Bell palsy. Pregnant women that lose their child in the womb when they get that. That's because there's no long-term studies on this. There's no long-term studies on the jib. And then our government wants to force everybody through the workplace to get it. Seriously, think about this. You don't know what price has got to be paid for this a year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. Because there will be a price. Because we are living organisms. And every one of us is different genetically. And when we're different genetically, we all respond differently to things. Some people will be perfectly fine. I realize I saw that one of the side effects of getting this is with some women, they won't have a period for a couple months. That's my wife. That happened to my wife after I read this the other day. Her period disappeared for 3 months. It's back to normal now. But let's take a woman that's in her 20s, who's fertile, who plans on having a family, who plans on having children. What did this do? Pregnant women that lose children in the womb after they get this, what did it do? You know, you're not going to hear about it. They're not going to talk about it, and they're going to cover it up. Now, I might be said, oh, you're spreading misinformation. No, I'm spreading, use wisdom. Use your brain. Use what God has given you, and don't accept everything that they tell you, because not everything that they tell you is the truth. There's a lot of lies. And if you don't think our government doesn't lie to us, you are sadly mistaken. So before you do this, and you're serious about it, and definitely think about it with your children, because you don't know what's going to do. You ever hear of a vaccine that has to be specially made? You ever heard of that? You know, for children? Think about it. Think about it. Is there a special tetanus shot for them versus adults? Is there a special mumps or measles shot for them versus adults? Or how about rabies? There's a good one. Is there a specialized one just for them? But you have to have the special one that gets approval just for the kiddies. Don't believe everything they say. Question everything. There's no reason why you can't do some research. You might have to dig more now that they cover it up and they hide it and they try to... and even if it's an alternative thing that you may not believe, read it anyway. Read it anyway. Pack your brain with as much knowledge as you can, because you aren't going to get the full truth from these people. You don't know. There may be fertility problems, birth defects. You just don't know. There's no long-term effects. They haven't had long-term studies, human clinical trials, so to speak. I don't know how many long-term. Now, I don't fault them trying to get something developed quickly. I understand that. But when you start forcing people to do it, we've got a problem. Because once they can force you to do this, they can force you to do anything. And they're doing it through coercion and extortion, because if you think about it, if you don't get this, no more money, you don't eat, you don't pay your rent. That's extortion. You know what it's like? It's like paying property tax. Oh, you think you own your home, and legally you do, unless you don't pay your property tax. Then they legally take away your home without you having any really recourse. And they sell your home to the bidder who's willing to pay your property tax. It's an illusion that you own your home, because the truth is the state does. This is how they control. Same like there's no debtor prison. Well, there may be no more debtor prison, but you default on your credit card bills and everything. You get a really crappy credit rating. You can't get credit anymore. Try to live life without having with shitty credit. Your life gets pretty much put in a debtor's prison. Isn't it funny? If you really think about it, maybe some of you don't know what debtor's prison is. Maybe you need to look up the historical background of it. I think in some ways we'd probably be better off with it, because then people will come out with their debt clean instead of having to work it way up the ladder again. It's basically all bullshit. And our lives are controlled by those who are supposed to represent us. Don't give them any more power than they should have. Don't give them any more power. The more people that resist this, the better off we will be in the long run. But we got to start it now while we can. Till next time.